Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. A stranger is just someone whose story we haven't heard yet. The sacred masculine knows that there really are no strangers. He knows that we are all living different versions of the same story. We all have our gifts and our challenges, and though they take different forms, they all elicit and mean that we experience the same range of emotions. Everyone else is a reflection of ourselves to some extent. And as we are kinder and deepen our service to others, we come home to the truth of our own sacred masculinity. Hello, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Bring Him Home Sacred Masculinity Rising podcast series. This is our time and space to explore some principles and stories and experiences of what it looks like to embody and walk the road of the sacred masculine. My name is Miguel Dean, and I am the author of Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. This is my true story of a conscious, passionate, and loving relationship with an extraordinary woman, and how it played a significant role in the rising of my own sacred masculinity and the courageous journey I embarked on from my head back to my heart. My intention is that through sharing my personal love story in the book and creating this podcast series, I will provide listeners with ideas of how they can catalyze their own journey to sacred masculinity, and that this will in turn facilitate the divine twin flame union within the hearts of many men and women, so that we can create a more beautiful world for our children and the generations to come. Find out more about my book and the rest of my work at my website, migueldean.net. So, the 8th principle, which we're going to touch on today, as you may have guessed, focuses on service. The principle is, I pledge my life in service to others and the planet, knowing that as I do unto others, I do unto myself. A wise man was once asked, how should we treat others? He responded by saying, there are no others. It's worth pausing and just settling into those words just for a moment. There are no others. Everybody is just a reflection of ourselves, all living different versions of the same story. I discovered this really kind of got to grips with this idea. It was just a concept before, but I really knew it when I'd written my first book. And people kept coming up to me and saying, I could so relate to your story and your experiences. And I was a little bit puzzled to begin with, because I knew that my life, the homelessness and the drugs and the crime and the violence and, what had happened to me as a child was in a way unique. But what I realized was that it elicited the same emotions as everybody else experiences through their own stories. It's like we all have exactly what we need to experience for the growth of our individual souls. So this idea that we are separate becomes less when we understand that we're all living these different versions of the same story. And so when we serve, when we contribute, when we help, when we empower others, We are empowering ourselves. So often when I'm working in my one-to-one sessions, I have people that will talk about how they're angry or they feel they've been wronged by another person or a situation. And it's always a reflection of, of how they feel about themselves. If you're angry with somebody else, then perhaps they're bringing up something in you that you don't want to see. So you're actually angry at them for revealing a part of you that is uncomfortable. What I realized was that the more that I helped others, the more that I helped myself. It kind of brings you back into alignment with the truth of who we are. Now, society, Western society makes us believe, or it gives the impression that it's dog eat dog out there and that you have to climb on top of somebody else to get somewhere. And these ideas of competition that are so deeply ingrained to us from school. We don't learn so much about collaboration and interconnectivity and interdependence. It's like there is a part missed out in our growth. We start from being dependent on others when we're young, and then we mature and grow into this place of independence. And that independence often is where the buck seems to stop, and people think that's the end of it. But the path of sacred masculinity takes us into another level of interdependence. We are all dependent on each other. And to a large extent, that is why the world is in the situation that it is at the moment. Because everybody's just looking out for themselves, or looking out for their very immediate, small circle of connection. Mother Teresa said, "The trouble with the world is that we draw the circle of the family too small." And I think there's truth in those words. A man suggests that he helps the people around him. He helps his wife, his children. But then he stops that circle. He sees that, everybody else can look after themselves. The sacred masculine sees everybody as his family. Everybody is there and is important. It's not somebody else's children that are being trafficked or being abused or being having to work long hours for a pittance. Those are our children. We are all part of one human family. This idea that we just help those in our immediate circle leads to all sorts of problems. It's not a responsible attitude. It separates us. Whereas the sacred masculine knows that we contribute to everybody, and in so contribute to everybody and everything, we contribute to ourselves. We grow ourselves and we come back into alignment with the love and truth that we actually are. When I was working with homeless youth many years ago, they were such great teachers for me. I thought that I was there just to give to them. I thought that it was just about, teaching them what they needed. And I thought that what they needed was some boundaries and some discipline and some tough love. And to some extent, that was what was needed. But I forgot about the soft love and the tenderness and the kindness and the compassion and the empathy. And they taught me about this. Perhaps sometimes not in a very pleasant way. They gave me a hard time. But that was because I wasn't coming from a place of truth. My vision was skewed by my own issues and my own wounds at that time. I learned probably a lot more from them than they did from me. And it's the same with the clients that I work with now. It always amazes me that the sessions that I have, what my clients bring to the sessions, so often there are issues that I am dealing with myself, because we're all dealing with the same issues. I learn so much from my clients, and they gift me so much. Sometimes it doesn't feel right that that they give me money. Sometimes it feels like it should be the other way around. In service, when we serve others, we are served ourselves. It's the law of reciprocity. It's the way that the universe works. Everything is interconnected. No man is an island. We serve, we help, we give. And in so doing, we receive. Because there are no others. And that doesn't mean that we just serve from a place of neglecting our own needs. Sometimes this is a common error that people make. And they give to be nice. They give because they want to be validated externally. They want others to say how good they are and how grateful they are, because they don't feel that inside themselves. We have to have this fine line of discernment where we are aware that we are nourishing ourselves as well as serving others. It's this key word, balance, again. We have to have the balance. We serve ourselves, we serve others. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's like that putting on the oxygen mask when you're in the aeroplane. If they say if there's a crash, if there's an incident, then put your own mask on first. And that's what we need to do. We have to put our own mask on. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. We find our own internal validation, and we deepen our self-acceptance, and we say to ourselves, I'm good enough as I am, and I still contribute and still serve and still show up, because that is the truth of who I am, and that is what nourishes me. And then we have a ripple effect. It's like pebbles in a pond. When we're kind and we serve others, they are more likely to do that as well. You smile at somebody and you give them a compliment, then somebody perhaps feels a little better and they're a bit kinder to the next person that they meet. It's really quite simple. It fills us up when we serve, when we contribute, because we know that we are serving ourselves, and it brings us into alignment with who we are. I'll share a letter that I had from a young person. This was many years after I'd finished working with them. And they wrote to me, Dear Miguel, I've been passing on all the lessons you taught me, and it made me think. I've told so many people the effect your wisdom has had on me, but I've yet to really let you know. So this is a letter explaining and appreciating what you've done for me. It was only 2 days ago that I was sat with my mum. We got onto the topic of a friend who I've been helping through a tough time. Although I cannot recite word for word what I said to her, I can only remember that my friend reminds me perfectly of how I used to be. You see, as I reflect on who I was last year, it occurs to me I was a pain in the neck. I was ignorant, stubborn, immature, among many other things. However, through all this, you persisted with me. You believed in me. You helped me want to change. Then you gave me all the tools I needed to change. I would be lying if I told you I put everything you taught me into practice. But as I've been helping my friend, I've been helping myself. Every time I advise him, it reminds me to take the same path. Take an example. Last weekend, I got on a bus by myself to somewhere I have never been, and it didn't even faze me. I'm not sure I would have been able to do that without your help, at least not without being terrified, but I was completely at ease. I don't know if this letter truly conveys how much I've changed or how grateful I am, but it's a start. But let me reassure you, I will do what I can about the things that I can. I will not worry about the things that I can't change. When I make a mistake, I will not beat myself up or wallow in self-pity. I will pick myself up and do what I can to make it right. I will not hide away from my problems. I will tackle them face on. Most of all, I will not be afraid of change, because change can be a good thing. This is a lot of what I have learned from you. I will always do my best to remember it, and I have been and will continue to pass on this knowledge. From my heart, I thank you, Miguel. Sincerely, Joe. So, my intention is that this letter really illustrates just what I've been talking about. That knock-on effect, of what I shared with Joe, and that Joe is now passing that on to other people. That just really fills me up. And it's just proof of that when we serve others and we're there for them and we believe in them, then something changes and they pass that on to others. And then we enjoy beautiful feedback like this letter. And, this letter's it's not the norm. Most of the time when I used to work with young people, it was just like planting seeds and you never saw what results they might have. This was one of the rare times when I actually kind of got to see the harvest of what I had planted. Because we give, because it makes us feel good to give, because it feels right, because it feels good, not because of what we get back, not the external validation. We just know that we're doing the right thing. And perhaps when we go to bed at night, we can rest and think, did I make a difference today? How did I serve? And if there's just one little thing or one big thing or something that we contributed, then we can go to sleep with a clear, light, love-filled heart. It's a greater reward than any number on a bank balance in my experience. The sacred masculine knows that as he raises up others, he raises himself. It's a domino effect, or like ripples on the pond. He knows that as he does to others, he does unto himself, because there really are no others. We are one big human family. We are all interconnected. We are all like cells of one body. We are cells. Each individual person is a cell that makes up the universe. Your profession doesn't have to be directly connected with service for you to serve either. You can serve by the way you do what you do. You can practice random acts of kindness. It's a beautiful thing to do. Be conscious of the way you drive or the way you speak to the lady on the checkout at the supermarket. There are so many different ways that we can serve. Service is the way of the sacred masculine. So it's time for the blessing, which I wrote for the front of my book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. May the energy of this podcast be a catalyst for the union of the divine feminine and masculine energies within the hearts of all men and women. May we have the willingness and determination to make the journey from our heads back to our hearts. May we learn to father and mother ourselves and take care of our inner child. And may we remember what it is to love ourselves, each other, all sentient beings, and this sacred earth for ourselves, our children, and the generations to come. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Miguel Dean, catalyzing the twin flame union of divine, masculine, and feminine energies within the hearts of men and women. I'm the author of my new book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, published by Sacred Stories and available online through Amazon and booksellers worldwide. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast and join me next time, where we will explore the 9th principle of sacred masculinity, which is, I allow myself to be authentic and vulnerable and reveal all of who I am to myself and the world. Until we meet again, be well. Aho.